And looked at me and mentioned to me, yes, but it is too late. It's too late. I lost my mom just about 3 years ago, and it still hurts. I could recall all the years of suffering I saw her in. She had diabetes, she had high blood pressure, and the complications of the medical treatment that she had. If you are here that you have lost a loved one or you have been sick before, you know how hard it is, how difficult it is, how frustrating it is when you don't have answers to your problem. This was one of the many scenarios that influenced me to look at more about what could be the cause of many of our illnesses. And this weekend, I'm going to share what I know so far. And I have to prompt this. Medicine has not got all the answers we require. Medicine hasn't. We are still studying. We are still knowing. And when it comes to people like us, if I say us, immigrants, minorities, we still do not have a lot of information to inform the care that we provide. We have to prioritize our health. In a few moments that we have here, I want to thank the BC Ghanaian SDA committee for inviting me, because this is something that I'm passionate about. It's something that is very dear to me. I'll give you a lot of stories throughout my presentation. And please make sure you keep your questions in mind, because it is the questions that is going to inform our learning. Sometimes people feel, I'm thinking about this question, but I don't think whether it would be appropriate. Please ask this question. This is a health lecture. This is a health, I would say, discussion group. I do not know all the answers, and it would be very foolish of any clinician, physician, provider to suggest they have answers to every health condition. We will try not to be too personal, but definitely we will talk about some disorders, some common disorders. We have a responsibility for our health, and we have the responsibility for the health of others. Let me repeat it again. We have the responsibility for our health, and we have the responsibility for the health of others. Why do I say so? Do you recall recently? Let me bring something from the mental health field. When somebody is sick in our community and does something heinous, it affects the whole community. A case in point is what happened in Vancouver just a week ago, when somebody drove at fast speed, killed how many people? 11 people, maimed more people, and I cannot even quantify the number of people who have been traumatized from that event, that will be developing depression, anxiety from that event. So it is not just good for you to take care of your mental health. It's not just good for you to take care of your health. It's always good to also take care of the health of others. Because in North America, in studies done in the US, 1 in 2 adults are said to be what? Lonely. 1 in 2 adults are said to be lonely. Later on in my presentations, I'll talk about what loneliness does to our bodies. It's compared to smoking 15 sticks of cigarettes a day. So you can imagine the impact it has on our health. I put this picture here because it always reminds me of our critical situation when you are ill. This is a picture of somebody in ICU. You have lines everywhere. This is what most practitioners, clinicians, will refer to as clinical care. Clinical care represents only 20% of our health outcomes. 20% of our health outcomes is clinical care. 80% of our health, it has nothing to do with health institutions. It has nothing to do with seeing a provider. It has nothing to do with seeing doctors. 80% of our health has everything to do with our environment, with our stresses, with so many other variables. that we do not pay attention to. I'm sure you have questions on your mind now. What about your health or healthcare keeps you awake at night? And here I'll pause and like to hear from people here. What keeps you awake at night about your healthcare? Anyone? Any takers? What keeps you awake about your health or healthcare? Anyone? Yes. What keeps you awake at night about your healthcare? Anyone? Has everybody got good healthcare here? Pardon me. Anybody in pain here? Anybody here has pain? Somewhere? Yeah. Oh, pain is common.
Yeah.
70% of us sitting here have some form of pain. You don't have to. Whether you ignore me or not, you are somehow in pain. Yeah.
Emergency room wait times.
Emergency room wait time. That is access to healthcare. I recently, as fate has it, I recently was, for the last 4 weeks or so, had to see my family doctor. I have not seen my doctor in 3 years, and I don't advise you to do that. It's not good. I have not seen my doctor in 3 years, but recently I experienced excruciating pain. Sciatic nerve. Came from nowhere. Stood up one day, I could not walk to the bathroom. For those who know me, I exercise 3 times a week. I eat healthy. I do all the stuff that needs to be done. I've never experienced such pain. Never. And I don't wish it on anybody. I know people who have got sciatica pain, but I never thought. They talk about their pain. They talk about how disabling it is. I recently experienced it. It was so bad, that when I cough or have to sneeze, I have to get on 4 or lie down to cough or sneeze. Came from nowhere. I went to see my family doctor because I have not seen my doctor in a while. Did some lab records, asked me to go do physio. This was so bad, I was ready to do anything they asked me to do. It came up that I had inflammation of my sciatica. The first 3 reasons that they gave me for my inflammation of my sciatica has nothing to do with stress. They talked about lifting something. I've not lifted anything. I'm very careful what I lift. They talk about other things, infection and anything that could be going on. I have nothing. The only variable that they mentioned, it was the 4th or 5th variable, that spoke, and I knew it was it. I have been under a lot of stress the last 6 months or so. I am here now. I'm not in pain. I'm not taking any medication. It took about 3 weeks to reverse it. And I did what I have learned and what I preach. Our health is more than going to see the doctor. If we are to have good health, is to address the root cause of our sickness. So as we proceed, before we leave here, I hope everybody will leave here with an understanding of the state of health and healthcare. Somebody mentioned access. Having access to healthcare, how to even ask your questions to your doctor, because usually when you go to see your doctor, you have only 8 minutes. And you cannot go with more than 2 consents. Am I speaking truth here? Yes. If you go, when I went for my sciatica, I also have a lamp. So I show a lamp on my back. He said I have to book another appointment. I'm not kidding. Yes. And if you go to any accident and emergency recently, you are waiting. If you are not bleeding and you are breathing 6 to 12 hours straight. If you're a man and you're over 40, a black man, and you ask for prostate exam, PSA, the blood test, prescription so you can have it's very likely they will let you pay for it. We did not used to pay for PSA in Canada. But this is access. If you're able to quantify your acts in a certain way, that you are having irregular urination and stuff like that, then when he writes the prescription for you, you don't have to pay. This is an access issue. Understanding how to access our healthcare, especially as immigrants. Well, I'm not from here. I've been in this country for 18 years, but I'm not from here. Having access to healthcare, you need somebody to guide you, to give you advice to how to access healthcare. I hope by the end of this presentation, I would like to describe the common disorders impacting our communities. Have an explanation of the common causes of some of the common medical conditions we have. And everybody should leave here understanding the determinants of health. One of the first books I read during my studies, my graduate studies, was a book called The Ghost Map. Has anybody read that book? I cannot recollect the name of the author, but if somebody can check it for me. It's The Ghost Map is a book based on a cholera outbreak in London, I think the early, I'm tempted to say 19th century. And Stephen Johnson, yes, The Ghost Map. And what I got from that book is this, that people were getting sick of cholera. Those days there was poor sanitation, right? And it was spreading. A lot of people were dying. It took somebody to sit down and think about it. If all of us are dying and we are trying everything and it's not working, could it be that we all have a single source of well? And people are not washing their hands or doing good health hygiene that is causing us to die prematurely from cholera. That is something that has lived with me and with many providers, that if you have people who are coming to you always sick, could you rather spend time, look at what is causing their illness, or you just go and treat their symptoms after symptoms and symptoms and they keep coming back? Let me give another example. It will land home. I have a family friend's wife who called me, experiencing severe headaches. She was thinking, I think she thought she was having brain cancer or something, tumor in her brain. She had some scans done. I asked her to go to the doctor. She's had MRI, severe headaches, migraines. And I asked her, has your doctor spent time with you to talk to you about what may be going on? Yes, they don't know what is happening. And they gave a whole lot of reasons that could. And I asked, just sit down, tell me what your life is like during the day. You give me your activities of daily living. Just take me through your day. What it turned up was that this lady was so stressed. I knew a little bit about her marriage. I knew a little bit about her work and also parenting. That would do you. That would do you. When she was able to adjust her lifestyle, the migraines vanished with time. There's a lot for us to unpack when we think about the determinants of health. Let me talk about the lack of data. Data on healthcare is scarce. And even when it's abundant, it is not interpreted well. Do you know how long it took for the healthcare community to accept smoking causes cancer? Can anybody guess how long it took for us to ban smoking from public places and from hospitals? If you watch old movies, you will see doctors smoking with their patients. Have you seen those movies? Yes, because for the longest time, smoking you could not establish the causal relationship between smoking and cancer. It took time for us to see there was a relationship, and it took time for us to know there's a causal relationship. Let me break it down. It is generally accepted in the medical community that it takes 17 years for evidence to get into practice. Okay, let me break it down. When we collect data, whatever data, it takes about 17 years to transcribe the data, to translate the data to evidence-based practice. What does that mean? So, because we didn't have the evidence to suggest that smoking causes cancer, everybody was smoking. It was not illegal. People were smoking in hospitals. When I started working in psychiatry just about 20 years ago, we had a room dedicated for patients with behavioral health and mental health to smoke. Now, those rooms have been closed. I saw even current data on coconut oil, on stress, on trauma. All such data is still now coming out to inform healthcare. So, and when it comes to people, minorities, some of these data do not match. We are hard to get information from. And there's limited funding to actually do research that will inform the healthcare of minorities. Just look at our recent American politics. CDC has cut most research that were focused on minority groups. We are genetically similar, but our living conditions inform the way our healthcare outcomes are. Am I making sense? Thank you. So sometimes when people say, oh, evidence-based, or I'm rushing to see the doctor says this, I kind of sometimes pinch myself. Recent experience, sciatic nerve pain, everything that the doctor mentioned had nothing to do with what I was experiencing because the doctor did not spend time to even know who I am and what I did. He just imagined this is a body, I have 8 minutes, I have to do X, Y, Z, they call it clinical. Let me give another example. My family member was diagnosed with lupus. Anybody know what lupus is? Yes, an autoimmune disorder. So your cells that are supposed to protect you from infection and immunity, give you immunity, start attacking your healthy cells. That's lupus. There are other types of lupus, but there are two main types of lupus. Systemic lupus, that is LSC, and discoid lupus usually is on your skin and superficial. When this family member got lupus, they prescribed a lot of medications, and this family member didn't want to take the medication. Read the medication side profile, had discussions with me, and I'm like, okay, it's one or two things. Did the doctor give you options? He says no. And I said, if I were you, I think I'll hold on this medication and try other stuff. He says no. He went back to see the doctor. The doctor requested I should come with her for this appointment. So I went for the appointment. After the doctor spoke to me very disrespectfully. This was a comment from the doctor. No, I asked the doctor. He asked me whether I have any questions. I said, yes. So I asked the doctor, if your wife was this sick, what would you ask her to do? This is a rheumatologist who specializes in lupus. Her comments were this: I'll ask her to watch her sleep, watch her diet, exercise regularly, manage stress, and take her medications. And I asked this doctor, I realized medication was 4th or 5th on your list. How come you've not recommended and checked on the first 3 or so that you are recommending for this family member? And these were the words from the doctor. It is not part of our medical guidelines. The gold standard for most medical guidelines, top on the list is medication in most Western medicine. Yes, a wise doctor who knows about lifestyle medicine, and I'll talk about lifestyle medicine, will talk about this, we'll talk about lifestyle medicine. Before we leave, I'll talk about lifestyle medicine. There is stigma and biases. We know there is race-based medicine. I don't have to elaborate the point. For kidney function tests, for a whole lot of stuff. The chances of you, if you are a mother expecting in the US and you're black, the chances of you dying prematurely, just birthing, is well documented, is very high. There's research to suggest if you are black and you experience mental health symptoms, the chances of you getting high doses of antipsychotic medication is very high. If you are black, accessing healthcare, the chances of you not getting the pain medication that you require is very high. These are all well documented. And if you want references and documentation to suggest this, I will give it to you. This is one more reason for us to take good care of our health. Usually when we think about healthcare, we look at healthcare at the treatment phase. But healthcare continuum is also, healthcare is a continuum. We have health promotion, that is what we are currently doing. Health prevention, the things you do to prevent you from getting sick. The treatment, when you go to E&D, emergency department, when you go to see your family doctor, when you go to hospital, that is where you receive treatment. And recovery, we know about the rehab places. So think about healthcare as a continuum. This continuum is usually, our Western world focuses on the treatment too much. Little resources is put into health promotion and health prevention. And we all know prevention is better than cure. Health outcomes are way better when you address it early on than when you treat it. This is one more reason why we should look at the determinants of healthcare. Now, look at these statistics of common or 10. I listed just the 10 leading causes of death in the United States and Canada, and the 10 leading causes of death worldwide. Just spend some time looking at this list. Heart disease, both ends. Is it preventable? I want somebody to talk to me. Is it preventable? Yes, heart diseases are preventable. Most heart diseases are preventable. Cancer. Just look at the US, Canada list. Cancer, and I'm talking about cancers. For men, what's the top leading cause? For black men, prostate. For black people, both male and female, cancer of the heart, intestine, colon cancer, very high. That is why they recommend, as soon as you turn 50, make sure you have a colonoscopy. You don't pay anything for colonoscopy in Canada. Make sure you have one. If for nothing at all, it gives you a baseline that you can have something to compare with later on. Breast cancer, cervical cancer, very high among black women. We all know about Henrietta Lacks, right? Have you heard of Henrietta Lacks? Yes. Henrietta Lacks is a black American who went to Johns Hopkins Hospital to have a surgical, I think they removed her, is it cervix or ovaries? Yes, due to cancer, and the cells that they took out from her wouldn't stop replicating. It has been used in so many researches around the world. It's called the HeLa cells. High incidences of cancer. Accidents. The chances of you dying by gunfire if you live in the States is very high. Even here in Canada. Do you know the number of people who die by road accidents in Canada? is untold. A lot of people die through accidents in Canada and the US. Stroke are related to heart disease. Chronic lower respiratory illness, Alzheimer's is on the increase. Diabetes, a big killer. Chronic liver disease, kidney issues. Just go to any renal clinic. Dialysis. A lot. Worldwide. These are the 10 common. Suicide used to be one of the first, the top 10. Suicide has dropped to 11, but it's still very significant. I'll talk about it in my other presentations. But there is a growing trend of sickness. These are sickness that will kill you. I'm talking about mortality here. There's also morbidity. Sickness that maims you or makes you sick and you are not very productive. Usually people just look at, number of people who die from this sickness. Diabetes will kill you slowly. You can live with diabetes for 20 years. I'm looking for the right term. Your standards of living is hugely impacted by your diabetes. It will inform the job, even your ability to take certain jobs. It informs the way you interact and socialize with people. While we can't prevent every cause of death because of sin, we can do a lot to lower our risks. Many of the leading causes of death, both in Canada and worldwide, are preventable with lifestyle changes. We all know that all these disorders that I've listed in our community, I try to look for data that is specific to immigrants, that is specific to black people, that is specific to Ghanaians who are living here. You know, Ghanaians living outside in the diaspora die much younger than Ghanaians living in Ghana. You know that? Yeah. You think you have healthcare here. But this is why we have to look at the determinants of health. These are some of the common things. If you Google, if you go to UpToDate, if you check all those medical literature to look for information of immigrants from Africa, what's their leading causes of death, it's scarce. In this age, you can find the data. And if you find the data, they are all talking about infection. They are talking about smallpox. They are talking about monkeypox. They are talking about things, that narrative. But further studies revealed this: cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, cancer, asthma, gout, lupus, COPD, and inflammatory diseases. In fact, all the diseases that I've listed above are all inflammatory diseases. And most inflammatory diseases has got a huge stress factor. We will talk about it. What are the common causes of sickness, disease, or disorder? Yes, we have the internal causes of genetics that we can do very little about. Not that we can do. Yes, you are bequeathed with your genes. You were born. Sometimes there's very little you can do about it. But that doesn't actually predict your illness. So I told you my mom has diabetes, high blood pressure, and so forth and so forth. It's type 2 diabetes. It's preventable. She got her diagnosis for diabetes before she was 40. I'm almost 50, and I do not have the diagnosis because I have to work on it. We have to work on it. That is why we're talking about the determinants of health. There are external reasons that causes disease and disorder. That is why we are here tonight. Those are the determinants of health that I would like to focus on. The genetics bit, it is well known. You inherit some gene for cancer, it is known. But that gene can be suppressed or not expressed if you take good care of yourself. What are those external factors? It's the environment. I'll break it down in my next slide. It's the lifestyle. It's the stress. It's the social determinants of health. So if you are wondering what the social determinants of health are, this is it, in one slide. I'm going to talk about all this for the next few minutes. These are the social determinants of health. This is what will make you sick or have well-being. You remember when I started, I said 20% of our health outcomes is based on what the doctors, the medical institutions can do. 80% of our health outcomes is based on this. 80% of our health outcomes is based on this. I wish I knew about this way early on in life. I've been to church most of the time. Usually when we talk the health message, the temperance is preached, this is what we focus on. Anybody who remembers New Start, the temperance program, this is what it's based on. It's based on lifestyle. Let me take you through the determinants of health. If you have 5 stars, I'll start from the economic stability. Poverty kills. Germs kills, but poverty kills faster. How do I put it? Because the economic stability determines where you live. Correct? Economic stability determines the work you do. Economic stability determines your access to healthcare. If you even live in this country, there are certain now, when I came here 18 years ago, a lot of stuff in healthcare was free. Now you have to pay for something. Like recently I had to pay for my PSA. Could you imagine if you do not have enough money? People have postponed doing certain things, going for a certain scan, because they cannot take time off. Am I talking to somebody here? Germs kills, but poverty kills quicker. Economic stability is a huge thing. In the midst of many, you see, I have to talk about economic stability a little bit. You know, sometimes we accrue all the money and build mansions in Ghana and other places. Or we prioritize certain economic ventures. We want to secure the future. So you put all the money you are earning now in stocks, bonds, so that when you are 50, what if tomorrow never comes? You get what I'm trying to say? I'm not saying you shouldn't save. I'm not saying you shouldn't buy bonds. But your economic stability, invest in your health now. Listen, if you are to buy food, cheap food, processed food is cheaper than organic and raw food. Am I speaking to somebody? Just go to Costco and try and buy processed foods. Check, definitely come out of $200. Try to go to organic, coming out to $500. Superstore, the same. Let's talk about the social and community context. We are social beings. And as immigrants, when we get here, we get very isolated. Easily. You have a course to finish. You're on scholarship. You do have to finish on time. You have a project to finish. You have a wife at home. You have kids at home. Your wife is here. We are social beings. Community makes a huge difference. I like this community. I may not be coming to church always here, but I had a community formed before this church that it is difficult to break. Sometimes people do not know how I make my decisions. It's difficult to break. When I came here, when my wife and I came here, we didn't know anybody here. A week to London in BC, my cousin's classmates, we found my cousin's classmates here who welcomed us, and he's been part of us. And we intentionally looked to build a community here. Our social and community context is huge. We are social beings. Let me just remind people. What is the biggest, has anybody visited a prison or have watched movies about people incarcerated? What is the worst punishment you can give to a prisoner? Isolation. And when we come here, how many people feel isolated? Just show by hands. Whether ever since you came here, have you ever felt isolated? 1 in 2 adults in America are lonely. Remember I said that? And loneliness is compared to 15. If you smoke 15 cigarettes a day, what will be your health outcome? Building community is very important, and I like what the church is currently doing. Neighborhood and built environment. Where you live is important. Your postcode is important. Most often, because we want to save, because we have limited resources, we end up living in neighborhoods, not so much here in Canada, but still, there are places in Surrey you wouldn't like to live. And if you don't know, I'm telling you, I'm sharing with you. There are places you live in BC here, but keep your door closed. There are places you can open your door, open your garage, sleep, go, come. I've opened my garage 2 days, come, and nobody has entered there. Sometimes the difference is just $200 for your peace. I said just $200. There are neighborhoods without access to green spaces. You know, when you study a lot, they advise you after studying, look at some green things and stuff like that. It helps relax your eyes. Living in concrete jungles. I think here I spent some time in New York. If you've been to New York, you know about the concrete jungle. Live in London, you know about the concrete jungle. No green spaces. Having children who do not have access to a third place. And we talk about, you've heard about the third place. First place is church, school. People need a third place where they can just relax. That is why in Canadian certain communities, when they build, every strata they build, they leave a space for communal center, leave a space for kids play, skating park, every community. I work in the States. There's a town in the States called London. Kids there do not have a third space. Do you know where they meet to socialize? Around the McDonald's. What are the chances that you hang around McDonald's and not eat junk? Sorry. That is the neighborhood and environment. If you live in a neighborhood where there are gangs, you know people have been shot by just minding their own business in BC here. And there are areas here. You know that there's a skid row here. You know where there is a Surrey skid row? So at the peak of the opiate crisis, just around here, there's an alley that people come there. A lot of people have died prematurely from there. And a case in point, I don't want to share too much statistics. Thank you so much. A case in point is one of African descent. The man was actually a pastor, not an Adventist pastor. His 19-year-old boy overdosed in that corridor. I didn't know even that existed. Till some colleagues told me, they call the place Skid Row. It looks like East Van in Surrey here. It's just around this area. It's been a while. I don't know whether they've cleared it now. If you live in an environment where ambulance runs every 2 minutes, or the police, sirens, runs, they are running up on somebody, they are checking out on a crack house or something, it increases your risk of always feeling nervous and anxious. That is the neighborhood and environment we're talking about. These are the things that kills us and maims us. So if I talk about determinants of health, these are the things I'm referring to. Access to healthcare is an issue. I told you that when you go to a doctor, he has 8 minutes. You need to know how to talk about your symptoms. You go and yes, they have words that describes their symptoms. Recently, somebody was telling me, okay, let me use about a Ghanaian language. Let me speak Tree. Mehon Fame. How do you translate it into English? You are not feeling well. The doctor knows you are not feeling well. What symptom is you are not feeling well? You get what I'm trying to say? Know how to describe your symptoms. Yes, you are not feeling well doesn't mean anything in medical terminology. Are you lethargic? Are you nauseous? Do you feel tired? Are you lacking sleep? Do you have insomnia? Even if they talk about I can't sleep, what do you mean by you can't sleep? You can't fall asleep or you can't stay asleep. You get what I'm trying to say? So if you do not describe your symptoms well, we wouldn't know how to treat you. And you have 8 minutes to make your case. Then you get frustrated that the doctor is not listening to you. You get what I'm trying to say? There's a way to talk about 2 symptoms and it appears 1. You get what I'm trying to say? Recently we were playing soccer. I think last year or 2 years ago when we had a friend of ours broke his leg. We called the ambulance. The ambulance was delaying. And we had to. I said, so far as they know this guy is healthy, he's playing soccer, it will take forever for the ambulance to come. I'm not saying we should do it. It sounds like we are telling lies. But when the person's breathing is compromised, the ambulance comes quickly. We had to change the narrative and tell the ambulance that the person's breathing is compromised. And within a short time, the ambulance appeared. There are ways. I have so many stories to talk about healthcare access. I had an elderly family member who went to see the family doctor. And the family doctor says, at some point in time, I have to do a prostate exam. And he did not hear the prostate exam. All he heard was that the family doctor says, I'll thrust my fingers through your anus. And the family member says, forget about it, I'll die than to have you. And this is a family doctor, young, about 30-year-old female, telling this old man he would thrust his hand through it. So it is having understanding of healthcare. So I had to translate it. That is because he's worried about your prostate results. He has to follow up with a medical exam which involves palpitation of your prostate and a physical examination of your prostate, which is, so having access is an issue. The number of, I have so many examples to share. Knowing even where to access for what healthcare. If you want a specialist, the first thing is go and see your GP quickly. Access issues. If you're a parent living in around this area. If you have a sick child, rather than go to ED to go and spend 6 hours, drive to Children's Hospital, you'll see that person quicker. That is access. We are surrounded by a lot of hospitals here. Some have got less wait time. White Rock usually has less wait time. That is access. These are information you need that can save your life. Why will you postpone not taking certain tests and you take certain tests really quickly? Early diagnosis, better prognosis. Education and access to quality education is a huge thing. They say the lack of knowledge, my people perish. Talking about healthcare makes a huge difference to our health outcomes. Most of the time, we spend time studying about things that do not add, help us understand healthcare. You know, in the US, when you are doing your health insurance, your level of education impacts your premium. Yes, if you are college educated, it impacts your premium. Compared to if you are master's, you are a graduate student, it impacts your premium. These are the things that impact our healthcare. There are a whole list of them. I've described some, but I'll just talk about those that I have not talked about. Stress at work is a huge one. Access to food, access to good food. You know, have you heard of the term food deserts? Food deserts. Okay. Food deserts are when people do not have access to raw, good quality food, and all they have access is to processed food. You know, there are communities that you do not have access to. How do we call the place? E&E, or the way they say banana and farmers markets. BC is not that bad. But even in BC, there are places that you don't get access to good food. BC, they try to kind of even things out. It's still expensive, but if you want to get real apple and real food, you can get it. But access to good food, food security is an issue. When you have access to just processed food, it increases your risk of getting a lot of disorders. Lifestyle medicine is the answer or an antidote to some of these determinants that I have mentioned. It's a new branch of medicine. You know, people can now specialize in lifestyle medicine. I think it became a whole branch in medicine in 2012. Let me quickly go through some of the key principles of lifestyle medicine. Whole food, plant predominant nutrition, having a balanced diet. You know, they have got this pie chart of what you should eat: protein, carbohydrate, fats, nuts, vegetables. I do not have to, I'll say I'm preaching to the choir at this point when I'm talking to Adventists. This one, we nail it. We know what is good food. But it is not just what you eat that kills you. It is what eats you that kills you. Regular exercise. I have experienced it so recently. My inflammation, part of my healing was exercising more regularly. Exercise decreases inflammation. Exercise promotes sleep. Exercise helps the body produce endorphins, which helps mitigate stress hormones. Those stress hormones, the adrenaline and the cortisol, that causes inflammation. Anybody that exercises reduces your risk of dementia, Alzheimer's, and other inflammatory diseases, multiple sclerosis. Let me pause here and talk to my Ghanaian sisters and other sisters. You guys don't like exercising. I said so humbly because I'm recalling my conversations with my mom when we were going for the walk. And I asked her, what would she have done differently? Said she wished she could have exercised some more. She didn't look, she looked big. She was definitely overweight, but she wasn't obese. Do you know I'm overweight? As I stand here, I'm overweight. It's all based on your BMI. I'm not obese, but I'm overweight. Exercise is medicine. We will talk about it later. Restorative sleep. I mentioned it's not just going to sleep, ability to go to sleep. It's ability to stay asleep. It is not the quality, it's not just the quantity of sleep. I see people who have slept 8 hours and wake up, they feel like they've never slept. Can you relate to that? That is not sleep. Sleep is not just about quantity, it's also about quality. You know, sometimes you can have power nap and you wake up, you feel like you just came out of some capsule, some space capsule. Your mind is so sharp, you can read and understand everything. That is, yes. I'm talking about sleep is not just about the quantity, but the quality. Stress management, we will talk about it later. Avoidance of risky behaviors. What are the risky behaviors? It's not just the use of alcohol, tobacco, and other products. Now there are tablets. There are people using cough mixture to help them sleep, or to help them. People using caffeine to help them. Any form of psychoactive substance that you take that affects your mood, your behavior, your effects, can impact your mental health. Did you get that? Yeah. Have you seen anybody withdrawing from caffeine or coffee? I've seen people shake like they are withdrawing from alcohol. Any psychoactive substance. And the last one on this is positive social connection. I'll draw from the work done by Robert Wahlberg in Harvard. Is it Waldenberg in Harvard about the 70-year study? And they realized healthy relationships gives happy, long life. Yes. Healthy relationships. We are social beings. Yes. Spirituality is part of it, of lifestyle medicine. In summary, before we go into our question, actually, let me pause here and take some few questions. How much time do I have, Pastor? Okay. Then let me use the rest of the minutes to talk about our determinants of health, focus on this, and as the mitigator as mitigation steps for our determinants of health. Anybody here with questions about determinants of health? 80% of our health outcomes is based on the determinants of health. I'll say even more than 80%. Because your genes, you may inherit your genes, but the expressions of your genes or the not expression of your genes is more based on your environment and what you do with your environment. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? When I facilitate or say something, if I present and I don't get questions, it's two things. It's either everything I said wasn't true and doesn't make sense, or everything I said resonates with you. So which is which? Any questions? Any comments? There's nothing like a question that we learn from each other. I don't know it all. Yeah.
What is the quality of sleep?
Yes, the question is, what I spoke about quantity and quality of sleep. And Mom wants me to explain how much quantity or what is quality.
How many hours?
Yes. So as soon as we start getting into hours, we know there's something wrong. There is no specific hours for anybody to sleep. There is a range. Am I making sense? I get worried when people say your blood pressure should be 120/80. Do you know that figure has changed over the years? Do you know that? Okay, let me bring it. This is a true story. Do you know for about 600 years, we thought the liver pumped blood in the medical community? Oh, no, check it out. I'm not making it up. It took hundreds of years to find out that the heart pumped blood. So when people get very discreet, I get worried. Most research suggests 6 to 8 hours for adults. For young people, it's suggested 8 to 10 hours for anyone less than 18. Do you know most of our teens barely get 5 hours of sleep because of that evil thing, that evil brick? I don't have mine here. You know the evil brick I'm talking about? Yeah, I'm talking about a cell phone. That's one of the worst inventions that ever happened to mankind. So for adults, 6 to 8 hours is seen as okay. Some do very well with 5.5 hours. That is good for you. This is when you know you have quality sleep. When you do not have to be wakened by an alarm clock. Your body wakes up over that period of time. Not that after 2.5 hours, your body wakes up and you want to go back to sleep. No, that's after there are 4 stages of sleep. They've got the REM cycles, right?
So do you supposed to sleep throughout the 8 hours or 6 hours sleep, or do you have to wake up?
Some people can sleep, wake up, and go back to sleep. And as you age, your sleep gets disturbed. You don't get straight 6 hours. Anybody over 50 can relate. As you age, your sleep gets disturbed. You cannot sleep. Not say you cannot. Not everybody.
What causing that?
Age.
Because the body just assume that I'm aging.
Well, it is known that age disrupts sleep, but not every old person is. You can do practices to improve your sleep. It's just like saying that everybody less than 18 should be able to do a 1.5 mile run in less than 14 minutes. Not everybody can do it, but if you train, you can do that.
Yeah. For me, I have to sleep between 8 to 10 hours for me to get enough sleep. I love to sleep. But years pass, I was sleeping 2 hours, I wake 1.5 hours, and I'm awake. Then I went to what is called Facebook, and this Chinese doctor was teaching how you have to do some massage, acupuncture point, and it's helping me to sleep through at least 6 hours or 6.5 hours before my sleep will break. So that's why, because if I sleep 8 hours, to me, it's not enough.
Thank you. Sleep is very important. If you have kids, most kids in the Western world do not sleep. You know, when you go to the hospital, one of the most common medication that is given at night is something to help sleep. Usually to help people fall asleep. There is over-the-counter medication, melatonin, and tryptophan to help sleep. Not everybody can take it. But if you go, one of the most common prescribed medication is sleep medication, medication for insomnia. And there are various sleep disorders. I'm treating sleep. Sleep is a whole subject on its own. You know, people specialize in sleep medicine. There's whole sleep medicine. If you sleep well, you reduce your chances of heart attack. You heal quicker from surgery. If you sleep well, even having kids, for parents who are about to have kids, if you sleep well, it impacts the kid. It impacts the kid's ability. It impacts so many things. Anyway, your immune system is boosted with sleep. I think I'll spend the whole day talking about sleep. Yes.
Yes. No, I'd just like to 2 cents comment. I want to talking about not falling asleep and not staying asleep. There was a time in my life that I was really stressed, and I call stress a silent killer, because I could not fall asleep or stay asleep because of the stress. And that's something that affects the whole body, including especially the mind.
Yes. And one of the first things, thank you, Pastor. One of the first things that you know you are not feeling well is when your sleep is disturbed. Am I making sense? I'm not saying some people when they are sick sleep too much. Some people when they are asleep cannot sleep. But so when your sleep is disturbed, flips, you know you are not. Yes, the question is, do naps help? Any nap over, well, most sleep scientists will tell you nap over 45 minutes is not healthy. And nap shouldn't be close to your bedtime. But nap helps. That is why we still have siesta. I used to not like sleeping when I was young. But as I age, I wish somebody would tell me to go and have siesta. Yes, in boarding schools in Ghana, they will ring the bell, siesta, every afternoon. The days you sleep, you are able to do much better during your prep time. Yeah? Those who sleep at nap, have their nap, siesta, do very well with prep. So please, I think my battery is going soon. But if there's something I'd like to emphasize, it is this. Let me quickly, I can't. My battery will be going soon. Please take note of this slide, because that's all we'll be talking about in the next 5 or 10 minutes before we close. Any questions? Yes.
So I think we've seen a lot of the effects and how they negatively affect us. But then there's also the risk that in a bid to correct these, we kind of rush in all of this, which I think can also affect us.
Yes.
So how do we bridge that gap from moving from completely negative to trying to meet the best health we can achieve?
Thank you. Everything in moderation. That is why we have temperance. When I was young, I didn't understand how temperance is. It's being temperate in all things, right? Sleep is good. When you sleep too much, you are lazy. No. I'm saying sleep is good, but when you sleep too much, you are being lazy. Exercise is good. You know exercise is good. When you exercise too much, it will make you look like somebody with eating disorders. And people will use exercise to manage their eating disorders, okay? So everything in moderation. If you love fruits are good. If you eat it too much, it gives you diarrhea. I used to love mangoes. And mango season, we'll get a bucket and try and eat a whole bucket. You know what it does? So mango is good and nutritious. It's natural. If you eat too much, you spend a lot of time doing, yes. So everything in moderation. And the next thing, all this health advice I'm giving, everything in moderation. Everything so must also be intentional. You must put some intentionality to your health. You just cannot leave your health to a healthcare provider, to a doctor, to take 8 minutes. He doesn't even know you. I do remember once, years ago, I went to request the same thing. I went to request for PSA when I turned 40. And the doctor refused to give me a test. He says he can't write a prescription for me to go and have my PSA. I said, why? He says, why am I detecting what you should do? I said, I'm a black man. There's an increased risk of prostate cancer with black men. As soon as you turn 40, at least you should be having your PSA every other year. Some will say actually yearly, depending on genetic factors in your room. So I asked him, do you know any members of my family? I don't know what in my family, we don't discuss what kills us. When was the last time your grandpa told you what killed him? You'll be lucky for your parents to tell you what is bothering them. You get what I'm saying? So it becomes very difficult for anybody to suggest that is why you have to take ownership of your health. The best asset you can have is an understanding of the determinants of health, so you can prevent and do things that will prevent. Most of our chronic diseases can be preventable with lifestyle medicine. Let me spend a little bit of time talking about exercise and what is good exercise, because that's the question. Most of us feel we are healthy, especially for the young men. They look healthy, they look muscular, but he was okay. How did he die? What you see physically with muscles has nothing to do with the arteries and the veins. The only way we can have it is when you have blood tests, they tell you what is happening in your veins and arteries. Yes, I'll take the question from Bennett soon. Most of us, actually, please exercise. Exercise. Minimum 30 minutes walk, 4 times a week. That is all you need. It rains a lot in BC. Walk in the rain. If you've not been sick before, if you've not experienced what sickness feels like, you worry about the rain. Because recently, I visited somebody who is very sick, young person. And if he describes his pain and describes his condition and what he would have done different next time, it's sad, because sometimes you cannot reverse the clock. Bennett, your question, please.
Yeah, good evening, Doc, and good evening to everyone. I mean, I've joined late, so I don't know, maybe you may have also touched on that already. But, Doc, I think one of the, should I call it an abuse? But one thing that we, the young people of late, do is that just as we have pocket lawyers, we have pocket doctors walking around. So we sit on Google and look for diagnose our problems and look for solutions to it. What is your take on that? I heard you mention about taking charge of your health and all that. I mean, is it also advisable that, I mean, we sit on internet and search for it? Once I get a migraine, I go on internet and search, and someone says I took aloe vera and it left. So maybe I should also live on aloe vera for mine to go. So I hope you get what I'm trying to ask.
I do.
What is your take on that?
So that is where education comes in. There is where to get information. So it's really huge now, because now everybody can diagnose himself with tools from the internet and not see a medical profession. And it's an access issue. I will not advise people to self-diagnose and self-treat. See a doctor, listen to the advice, and do your homework. There are times you must request for a second opinion. You know you can request for a second opinion. Yes. Yes, Vancouver now you can't get it. Okay, let me give you a case. Bennett, let me give you a typical example, because this is happening now. I have a cousin in Ghana, educated guy, graduate, doing very well, was diagnosed with diabetes, early 40. Just took the advice of the doctors. His diabetes, he should take his diabetes medication, blood pressure medications. You know, diabetes destroys your organs. It's just been 10 years now. He's now started dialysis. Diabetes is a lifestyle medicine. He could have reversed it. But he did not take time to read up, to do his homework. The medical society or the medical profession have a role to play, but you must take ownership of your health. Just like most churches will tell you to read the Bible and know God for yourself. Will you trust your salvation to a preacher? Bennett, that's the question I asked. Will you trust your salvation to resources on the internet? Because anybody can post anything. So why will you trust your health to one healthcare provider? Do your reading. And the issue is people do not know where to find credible information. So let me give you some resources to find credible information. Go to Cleveland Clinic. You can find some useful information from there. There's a clinic in Wisconsin that I've just gone blank on. Starts with M-O-N. Mayo Clinic has got useful information there. WHO has got a website. CDC has got a website. Go to those credible places. So WHO has got working at night as a carcinogen. Very few places have it. Go to credible places. If you want specific information on certain disorders, connect with me and I can give you resources. Don't just Google and read ChatGPT and go with your health that way. Lifestyle medicine, there's a lot. Like recently, somebody told me he heard garlic was very good. So he was fasting, and before he broke his fast, decided to drink garlic juice or something. He nearly died. The pain that it gave him. So check your resources. If you have access to medical literature, there's a place called Up to Date where they have patient information or layman information and a place for health professions. Everybody should have a medical professional friend, a lawyer friend, and a religious friend. You know that? A wise man told me this when I was very young. He said there is a group of you, everybody must have these 3 groups of friends, especially when you live in the West. You know, if you live in Canada, US, it's a very litigative environment. You have to have a lawyer friend. Somebody who will not charge you and give you a second opinion. You must have a medical friend who will tell you how to access healthcare, show you how to access healthcare. Because sometimes you can't even know how to present what you are going through. You must have somebody who will just get you to laugh. Okay? So this is what I have for now. The determinants of health goes beyond your genetics and your biology. The determinants of health is your environment. We will spend time to talk about stress, because stress on its own encompasses a lot, and it's killing and maiming us. May God bless us with good health. May God help us to find the good resources we need to take good care of ourselves, live long, happy lives. And once you found this information, it's not just good for yourself, it's also good for your neighbors. Because when your friends are not well, when people in your family are not well, you know you are not well too. Thank you. Yeah.
Well, in my country, you say when we like something, the delivery was better than the order. Thank you, Doctor. Amazing. We thank God for the good information that we received. We thank you all for coming. Those who are online, I'm impressed with a good number of people. And today was just scratching, the surface of the many blessings that what the Lord has for us here this weekend. So tomorrow morning we will convene at 11 o'clock for the continuation of the seminary, and then 2 o'clock, there will be lunch in between, and Sunday at 7 p.m. as well. We started with a prayer. I would like to close with a prayer. I'd like to invite Brother Eric, if you don't mind, thanking God for this wonderful opportunity to come together. We have to leave here by 9 o'clock. We have 20 minutes to fellowship a little bit, to have some refreshments. And we thank you all for coming, and we pray that by God's grace you all be here tomorrow morning for the seminary at 11 o'clock. Our church service will start at 10, of course, but the seminary at 11 o'clock we will have the seminary, continuation of the seminary. Thank you, Brother Eric. I'd like to invite you all to stand, please. Also for health reasons, we've been sitting for a long time. Then it's good to stand, right?
That's true. Yeah, yeah. Shall we pray? Our kind and loving Father in heaven, we are so grateful for an opportunity like this, that we have had our brother, our father, our cousin, and our uncle, Dr. Bonnie, with us tonight to help us delve through the determinants of our health. This is a privilege, and we want to thank you for this opportunity. Father, we know that you created us for good health. You never wanted us to be sick or ill. But based on all these determinants of our health, that is why we go through certain things and eventually will make us bedridden. We pray that everything that we have understood this evening, may you, Lord, help us to put it into practice. There are several things that were made aware to us. Sometimes, Lord, you created us, we get genetic information from our parents, but even so, if our life activities and our choices are not made according to how we will prosper in our health, we will definitely fall ill. And so we pray that, Lord, may you guide us through everything that we do, so that our actions, everything that we take in our body, every decision that we make will be in accordance to how you have purposed us to have a good health. This is what we ask for. And as Pastor said, this is the beginning. And so we will meet again, and throughout this weekend, may you, Lord, help us so that we will prosper in our health. In the name of Jesus Christ we pray. Amen.
Thank you again, Dr. Bonnie. Thank you all for coming. You can fellowship a little bit. We need to leave the premises at 9 o'clock. And thank you. Have a good night, and we'll see you tomorrow morning, God willing.